everyone. Well, how have you liked my series, Trinity's Emerald Triangle, so far? This will be my second to last episode for this season, and I hope that you've enjoyed listening to these episodes, these wild stories of mine, as much as I've enjoyed producing them. But even at this last episode, I still don't know how the series has been received yet. While I was on probation, I wrote and produced these first 20 episodes, this episode being the last one. But as I'm speaking here on this particular show right now, I haven't released any of the shows yet because I'm waiting to launch the series until after I get off probation. However, I knew that there would be questions and comments that I would need to address as each episode was released. When I do actually launch this series, I'm going to produce a question and answer episode for each pre-recorded episode and sandwich those in between. What I mean to say is, I don't know any of you yet, and I haven't actually interacted with you at this time, although it may seem like I have because of the question and answer episodes, which have been placed ahead of this one. But I can't wait to meet you all. I hope you like this series. I hope you all like it so much that I can keep going for a second season. There's still so much to talk about and so many things left unsaid. This has been very therapeutic and empowering for me to talk about the drug industry, the prison industry, and my experiences with them all. I was pretty nervous about doing a series like Trinity's Emerald Triangle because there isn't really too many blog-like series out there like this. I knew for the series to work that I would have to be completely authentic. I couldn't be too lighthearted or too heavy-handed. And then you know what they did to me after that? People can only take so much drama. But I knew I had to be honest, and drama was a part of it. But it wasn't all drama. I had to tell the truth. I couldn't brag about what a badass I was, when the truth is, I just dealt in weed. Well, DEA and a few conservative religious people think dealing in weed is really terrible. Most people in the country do or have inhaled, and the rest of them just don't give a damn, but... Again, I know that I needed to be honest and vulnerable, which is very, very scary for anyone in private, let alone in public like I am here now. I know I have a wicked sense of humor, but I also know I'm a troll sometimes too. I just can't help myself. Things just come out of my mouth. I also had a lot of anxiety that if in telling my story, I'd end up like one of those train wreck people on a reality series and my life is reduced to ridicule and public shame. Shame, shame, shame. I can't ever show my famous face in public again. I've had several criminal attorneys look this series over before I will release this series, so I don't end up getting myself arrested or assassinated. After one of the attorneys watched an episode, he said to me, "Gosh, Trinity, you seem kind of bitter." I felt judgment and self-righteousness in that loaded statement. Oh, yes, I did. I was actually astonished that he would ever even say that, because the deal is, bitter doesn't even begin to address what I am. Bitter? You sense that I'm bitter? That's like saying to someone who's shut out of Noah's Ark, "You look rather damp and cold there." How can I tell you this story and be a happy, chirpy woman all the time? Is that what society expects out of a woman? Out of me? Is this series, the experiences of my life, appropriate for a damn sitcom? Lighthearted with a laugh track? To be sure, some of the experiences I've had have been funny, mainly because the whole thing is so bad, it's good. So absurd, it's actually hysterical. Many parts of my life have been utterly outrageous in terms of what the feds did to us, and in turn, the kind of ballsiness we displayed too on our own part. Sometimes I felt really victimized, but at the same time, I feel that in what these people in the Justice Department and law enforcement did to us, they hurt themselves so much more than they ever hurt us. The feds, all the people who worked on this case, all the people who I ran into that helped keep the bureaucracy going, these people took our homes, our money, our property, our dignity. They made us pee in cups in front of them, stand naked for them in strip searches, fed us food that dogs wouldn't eat, sent us to prison, tore up our jail cells, wouldn't let us call or write each other for months on end, and labeled us with a big, fat F. The F word for felony. They stamped that black mark on our names so that background checks would hinder us from getting safe housing, livable wage jobs, bank accounts, and all the problems that go along with those things. We call DCSFI because it's against the law for parents to abuse their children, for husbands to commit domestic violence. All these things and more are legally sanctioned and practiced by these individuals in our government. These people have sold their souls over to these actions. They've abused their power, and now this is the kind of people they've become. Although the price of what they've done seems higher for them than it was for us in the long run, I won't kid you. The price has been high for us too, unspeakably high. However, if I hadn't gone through these experiences, if I hadn't lost it all, if they hadn't sent me to prison, I wouldn't be standing here today talking to you. I don't mean to be cliche, but it's true. If they hadn't pushed us around and bullied us so badly, I wouldn't have had the chutzpah today to talk about it. In a sense, you could say that I've been radicalized. Not as badly as Middle Eastern terrorists. I'm not going to go postal or blow up a bus of innocent civilians, but radicalized like a reformed Mormon woman that's mad as hell and isn't going to take it anymore. You could say that in my anger and outrage, my bitterness has motivated me, inspired me to actually talk about how the whole prison industry works. I'm going to talk openly about this culture, the prison industry of abusive people and all their supporting enablers out there. These toxic people self-righteously demanded my blood and my family's and crew's blood. I'm going to talk about the American vindictive culture that demands humiliation and bondage out of their fellow citizens, instituting draconian measures, metaphorically cutting people's hands off for stealing a loaf of bread. And to be sure, the collective accountability certainly doesn't want to look at the reasons why people are stealing loaves of bread in the first place. But that's a different series, really. No one likes to hear about too much darkness or sit through lectures, do they? I didn't want to lecture you. I wanted to just talk about my own personal experiences, and so many of my personal experiences were intensely wonderful, except when they weren't. Remember when I told you about Miss Boomer? Wasn't she a character? Do you think that electric blue Honda gangster from Yuba City who pulled the Glock on me knows what a badass I am now? He was probably so high he doesn't even know how he got home that night, let alone that he even pulled a gun on someone. Didn't you love hearing about the farm dogs, Sophie in particular? Wasn't it kind of cute how Jeff used to yell at the rustling dogs, "Get the hell out of here now!" Seriously, I think that at least 10% of this country's dog population lives in the Emerald Triangle. How would you like to live in a yurt and sleep under the stars up on a farm in NorCal, listening to the fir trees and redwoods whistling in the wind? What kind of poses would you yogiettes do on the deck of the pond under the willow tree if you could practice with the Buddha watching? What would you give to be able to have the opportunity to see 70 blocks of cash worth $5,000 apiece all in one place? Or to just once count hundreds and thousands of dollar bills on a money machine. How much money could you earn in 1 month if you could be a trimmer during harvest season? How bizarre would it be to sit down to breakfast at the Best Western Inn in Garberville and watch cartel members act polite, civilized, and proper as they drink their coffee and butter their toast? Wouldn't you love to meet Magic and see if he really is as beautiful on the inside as he is on the outside? He's just gonna die when he finds out I said all this shit about him. His brother is never gonna let him live it down. Oh, Trinity's crushing on you, man. Maybe you two should get married. Just remember this, Magic, if you're out there somewhere watching this. He's just jealous that I didn't brag on him. I hope you're doing well, little brother. Wouldn't you just love to punch Aaron Negus in the face if you ever met him? Boy, oh boy, I sure would. If you could have the honor to ask a kingpin like Tiny any question, what would it be? What about Trey? Wouldn't you just love to meet that kid of mine? I would love to show him off. I love him so. Except when I don't. How dull my life would have been if he wasn't my son. Trey opened up a whole new world to me, a rich and vibrant world I would have never known any other way. How many of you have ever seen a 3,000-year-old redwood tree? Some of you have, to be sure, but plenty of you haven't, so you got to put that on your bucket list. Ah, and don't forget, put Burning Man on the very top of that bucket list too if you haven't already been. There's something about dancing on the desert under the stars that will change your worldview forever. I know you all have done some of these things, but you know what, kids? I've done them all, and then some, and loved every second of it. Except when I hated it. I heard someone say once that people aren't really so much resilient as much as they just know that they have to rebuild their wrecked lives from nothing, one grain of sand at a time, until eventually they have a completely new life. That's me. Here I am right now in front of your very eyes, rebuilding my life from scratch again. We did it once when the feds took Bob down the first time, and now Bob and I and my whole family are having to rebuild it again. Rebuilding is hard, but at least I'm conscious of where I'm going and what I'm building. Like the eternal optimist that I am, I'm gonna build my life back the way I want it to be. I'm being very intentional about it. Remember how I told you in one of the earlier episodes that I wanted to take my story back? That I wasn't going to let the feds tell my story. How'd I do? Which story do you like better? The feds' story about me? Or my story about me? I like my story better. My story is much more complex and interesting, don't you think? It's not just black and white. Mrs. Benson belongs to one of the largest marijuana organizations the state of Utah has ever seen. Throw away the key, off with her head, and send her to prison and give her a big fat F. She's one of the deplorables failing at life. I'm a loser, baby, so why don't you kill me? Remember how much I estimated it cost the taxpayers to prosecute and send our little crew to prison? Do you remember how much it was? $4.5 million. Again, I'm going to ask you, now that you've gotten to know me a little bit better, was I worth it? Was my crime worth spending that much money on? I never said I wasn't guilty. What I have said is that the war on drugs is nothing more than just scare tactic propaganda, meant to keep taxpayers subsidizing the lucrative prison industry. So I ask you the biggest question in life. Who's the real losers around here? Who's really failing at life and in the war on drugs? The U.S. government. What a bunch of uncool people. Talk about losers, man. We should put a big A on their foreheads for asshole, or U for uncool. Not to be judgmental or anything. This is all memory lane. You've heard it all before, and I've had fun revisiting it. All my friends were really concerned about us because after they arrested us, we all simply disappeared for almost 3 years. Now that we're back up for air and everyone sees that we're all right, they have all wanted to know the details of what really went down. To them, Bob and I were members of their community, our community, and then suddenly we were in the headlines and poof, we were gone. It's like we were kidnapped. But there were too many details and too many people to tell, so I promised them all I would put out these episodes and write a book. The book was the first thing I did. I named it The Prodigal Daughter, if you'll recall. After everything I told you, you can imagine that's a fairly appropriate title, don't you think? At this time, I haven't really tried too hard to get a book deal because I've been focusing on building this platform here. But one thing at a time, and I'll get to the book pretty soon, I hope. The book is very different from the episodes. The episodes are all about the things I didn't have room to put in the book, and that's how Trinity's Emerald Triangle was born. To me, it feels like my story is actually just beginning. I have so many more places to go and stories to live. I just can't wait. I don't want to sound too Pollyanna though, because believe me, I have suffered from debilitating anxiety and depression often over these past 4 years. All of us did. One of the things that has lifted me up and helped me overcome my depression has been the making of this series. It's been a really creative process, and one of the things that's given me a shit ton of anxiety has also been the making of this series. It's been technically challenging, to say the least. Trinity's Emerald Triangle has been a two-edged sword for me. It's taken me way out of my comfort zone. Even though we hung out with like-minded people who smoked pot, people who went to Burning Man, hippies, spiritualists, hipsters, clubbers, other drug dealers, we still never, ever told any of them what we did. Not because they would have judged us, but because they would have talked. People talk. Everyone talks. It's hard not to talk. Hell, it was hard for us not to talk. It was hard not to brag, and it was hard not to complain. It was hard being cagey as the CIA. Now, I just love talking about it. I love bragging about it. I love complaining about it. But most of all, I have loved explaining the industry to you all. I'm kind of astonished that the majority of weed smokers have no idea what or where the Emerald Triangle is. I mean, if you think about it, most champagne drinkers know that champagne comes from the grapes from the Champagne region in France. Even people who aren't wine connoisseurs usually know what region of the world their glass of wine comes from that they order at dinner. And they usually know where the beer is made that they ask for at the bar. But the majority of people don't have a clue as to where their weed comes from or the journey it took to get to the plant to their bowl. Did you know any of this before you listened to my series? Well now, thanks to me, you know. You're welcome. I've loved putting names and faces to help us all humanize the drug industry. It's not a bunch of little felons running around killing each other and terrorizing public safety. The people running this industry are returned Mormon missionaries, college graduates, students, lawyers, servers, bellhops, Republicans, Democrats, white, brown, black, male, female, young, old, and everyone else in between. I've loved sharing the personality traits of my little crew. This crew and all the crews over the country who have taken risks to provide to all of you and this entire nation with a product you love but won't stand up for. Remember what I said when somebody asked me if I was sorry for what I had done? Not only am I not sorry, I'm proud of what I did. I'm proud of all these people who bring you your stash. These people are brave human beings. Law enforcement, DEA, prosecutors, and judges imprison and line us up like animals on court dockets of sealed hearings or on weekly zoo days. Defendants aren't animals. Geez, they even call it Zoo Day. They're people just like yourself, and they shouldn't be treated like animals. They're real people. I was one of those people in a jailhouse jumpsuit. Chetta and Zach went through the same abusive shit that Trey and Bob did. Tiny had it even worse and went through more abuse than the rest of us put together. There aren't any words for the suffering Tiny endured. He didn't deserve that. None of us did. My crew, my people. Farmers on the mountains, trimmers, hoppers, and distributors are not only worth mentioning, but should be admired and honored for their amazing characters and sacrifices. Prosecutors, law enforcement, judges, DEA, DOJ, ASS, HOLESs, and all the staff that keep the prison industry rolling, they shame themselves, not us. I have one last thing left that I would like to address today here in this episode. I want to show you this. This came in the mail yesterday. It's from the United States District Court Probation and Pretrial Services. What do you think it could be? Did they change my probation officer again? I've had like 10 different POs in the past 4 years. My last 2 POs were really good, and that's saying a lot because some POs are total sociopaths. How about I just read it to you? Mrs. Benson, as indicated on the enclosed platform, you have satisfactorily complied with the conditions of your supervision, and the judge has terminated your term of supervision early on September 4th, 2019. This will be the only notification you will receive regarding your discharge from supervision. Best wishes for your continuing success. Yes! Woo! Early release, baby! How sweet is that? I'm free at last. Oh my gosh. What should I do with all this freedom? How about I put this show on the road and launch the series Trinity's Emerald Triangle? Are you ready to rumble? Woo! I'll be posting this series up pretty soon, and I can't wait to meet you all. Please come to my website and make comments. Let me know who you are and what you think about all the things. If you're on YouTube, comment below. Let me get to know some of you as best as I can. After all, you guys all know just a little bit about me, and I'm intensely interested in you too. So remember, all you kids out there, don't do anything I would do. I'll see you all next season. Bye-bye.